Welcome back. It's time to get a little bit serious, maybe a little bit poignant, but in a way that I feel very privileged to be a part of a conversation that is continuing and needs to continue, and the good folks at KUED are forwarding the conversation in a very sophisticated, thoughtful, and sensitive way. Part 1 of Utah Vietnam War Stories has been airing now for maybe a couple, 3 months, I'm not sure exactly, but we're excited to talk tonight about Part 2 of this important series, and I'm pleased to be joined by producer Sally Shaum and participant in the documentary and Vietnam War veteran Terry McDade. Welcome, you guys. Thank you for coming. It's great to have you here. Sally, let's start with, you made a great comment to me as we were chatting before we came on camera, and I think I was characterizing this particular documentary as a little bit of maybe a history lesson, maybe unknowingly so, but you made a really great point about, well, it's right there in the title, stories. Mm-hmm. And that's the key. So if you would, start us off by talking about that particular perspective, because that really struck me, and I thought that was beautiful.
Really, thanks. That's really what it's all about. It's their own individual stories. We interviewed 82 veterans, and for this program, the toughest part was choosing which stories to go on air, which I thought was most compelling. So. I think that was probably the biggest challenge, as well as bringing them into the studio and having them actually spill their guts, so to speak, because it was hard for them. It was really difficult for them, a lot of these men, to do that. But it's not a history piece. It starts off with a 24-minute segment on choppers, and Terry was a door gunner, and he's in this film all over the place. And I really hope that people understand the veterans a little better when they see this, because these are really intimate, very personal, very revealing stories that these guys share with us. It's really cool.
And I have to say that as someone who loves the documentary form, and I can't imagine, to put myself in your shoes, to have the guts to ask Terry and all of these other 82, 81 veterans to come in and, like you say, spill their guts. I mean, that takes guts, does it not? Talk about that, what that moment of truth is like when you're saying to somebody, seriously, I want to ask you questions that maybe they've never been willing to answer, or certainly wanted to answer.
Well, you can hear it in their voice if you're talking to them on the phone, and really that's the first way we connect with them is, they're reticent, and Terry can talk to you about why. But boy, I was like, who am I? I was 13 years old when the war ended. Who am I to be talking to these guys who've carried this, a lot of pain of their experiences from the war for 40 plus years, to come in and spill their guts, and it felt kind of wrong, but I have learned through this process that this helped a lot of guys. This helped a lot of vets, and I think it helped Terry too a little bit. It was hard. I had to buy Terry lunch, as he says. That's why he came in. We went out a couple times, and I heard these stories, and I'm like, wow, and he's a great storyteller. You got to share these stories with people. You have to. And so finally he said, yes. I will tell you, there were some veterans who, a couple of them that I can think of, were quite shaken after the interview. And one of them said, wow, I haven't thought about these things for over 40 years. I haven't told this particular story or that particular story to anyone. And he said, I need to get out of here and go to my safe place, which was in the mountains. He needed to build a fire and go by himself. He needed solitude. Right. And I felt so guilty. Yeah. It was really hard. I felt like crap, but he's also in this show, and now he's glad he did it as well.
Well, and I think that the courage that it took for you to ask for that serves in 360 degrees, because look, if Terry or anybody else doesn't want to talk, then they don't have to talk. But by the same token, I know, without having seen this particular installment yet, that there are things that I need to hear as an American and as a human being who was 4 years old when the war ended and have barely any memory. And yet, as the son of a veteran, of a World War II veteran, I take very seriously this idea that we, as a society, and me as one person in a society, need to watch this, need to understand, need to listen, and maybe not forget is not the right way to put it, but to learn, to know, and to listen. Terry, if you would, talk about kind of the process for you of making the decision to say yes. Was that hard, and was that harder than actually sitting down and speaking?
It was. Dave McGee, who was in the segment, he's the one that told Sally about me. And when she called me, originally I thought about it, and I don't like to talk about it. And originally I told her no. And there was a lot of, the sound of disappointment in her voice. And I told my wife, I said, hey, I told him no, I ain't gonna do it. And my wife says, that's sad. And I said, why is it sad? I mean, that's not a good thing for me to remember. She said, because they won't know the stories. And the World War II vets are dying, one a day at least. Korean War vets are dying, one a day. The Vietnam vets are dying at a high rate. And the stories aren't getting told. The stories of what happened and what we went through never get told. My kids have no clue, or they will once they watch this, of what I did and what I went through and why I am the way I am about things. And I got to thank Sally for that, because I finally decided somebody needs to know why I am the way I am. And my wife sat there and watched the interviews, and she had no clue what I did and
So
what
common.
I saw.
That's
And
so common.
it is. And I told my kids I'm not going to watch a movie. It's called Memorial Day. I said, you need to watch this movie before you watch the segment on KUED. It's just a movie. It's called Memorial Day, and it's about a grandfather talking to his grandson about what he did in World War II. And he had never talked about it either till then. And I had to tell these stories. I need to. It's helped in some ways. And Sally and I, after the interviews, I sat down and I told her things that are not on the interviews, that nobody else in this world knows and nobody else in this world will ever know. That's how much I trust her. And I'm glad to see what she's doing. Hopefully, the vets that are out there that need help as far as PTSD
Yes.
or anything like that will watch this. I don't care what war they're from. If they will go get help. They're dying at a rate of suicide of over 1 a day. And if this helps somebody say, okay, I'm going to go talk to somebody, then it works. Then it's a real good idea. So that's why I did it. And she bought me lunch.
Terry.
And it wasn't one of these things. I had to go in and I had to bring documentation into her of what I did. I brought her in all my flight records,
Right.
copies I have of my flight records. I brought her in photographs, awards, things like this. So it was very well researched what she did.
Well, as I say, I can't help but reflect heavily on my personal experience with a father who's a veteran, who has never told stories like you said with your family. I've wanted to know, but I never felt that it was my right to ask, because I was asking on behalf of myself and not on behalf of viewers, of many, many people who can and will be touched. And to that extent, and your point is so well made, that the other veterans who will benefit from this work. Thanks for your courage for that.
It's something that Sally said that about her attitude about war and this. And Sally knows more about the Vietnam War and probably 99.9% of the people out there. She knows more about veterans. She knows more about what we did and everything else. So
Well,
she knows
she
more
doesn't
about
want to
us.
take praise either, huh?
I know you guys, but wow, that was a long war. That was the longest war. So, you know.
Literally and metaphorically, for
Yeah,
sure.
it really
Hey, you
was.
guys, I want to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to watch the clip, and we'll talk a little bit more. We got to get folks the specifics on air date,
Yep.
air time, and all that kind
Yep.
of stuff. So we'll be right back.
Okay.
Stay tuned. More on KUED's series, Utah Vietnam War Stories, after this.